And welcome back to We Are the People. This is your host, Jason Preston. And just a shout out to you, our incredible guest, incredible survivors, everybody out there watching. Just want you to know how much we appreciate, love, respect the world out of you. This has been an incredible fight. And I've said it again before, I'll say it again. You know, my wife and I will do anything in standing and fighting for these incredible survivors. I don't know what is more important. We've been in the political lane, but after understanding what is happening in this state, the political corruption is all just feels meaningless compared to the rot, the evil that is happening in our backyard. And so I just thank you for standing with these incredible survivors, and thank you for listening and hearing them. And it's been so inspiring to see you in the comments. So I just want to thank you for that. Again, just a reminder, if you're not already, go to our website, wearethepeople.org, and subscribe so that if and when, because it's happened before, someone's hacked into our channel, taken it down, we can still get you the content. Now, that being said, I'm very excited for today's story. This one is unique. In fact, unique in the fact that I don't know that a story like this has ever happened before. We have two absolutely incredible warrior survivors who've been through some incredible things and who both have incredible stories, and whose stories actually come together where they were part of the same ritual together. And so this has been phenomenal for our team to visit with them and hear their story. And I'm very excited to have them. I can promise you this is a story that's going to floor you. You'll go through all the range of emotions, but it'll inspire you, because I will tell you this, at the end of the day, God is in control. And I think he has had enough of the garbage that's happened in this state. And he is waking up these incredible people. And this is just cascading. And I will tell you, this will not stop until the corruption and the rot is cleaned out. So we have two incredible people, Ryan and Lindsay. What I'd like to do is start with, they both have incredible stories, but today, because of the complexity, Ryan is the first individual that came to us, and he told us his story. And as he told us, it was like jaws on the ground. And he told us about this individual who was part of ritual. And said, we thought, wow, it'd be incredible if we could get a hold of her. Well, guess what? Like I said, God's in control. She is here. And so she will be sharing a part of his story. Now, she has her own incredible story that we are not able to get into today because we don't have the time. But I really hope and pray we can have her back to hear her story, because anyone who goes through this, you don't live a normal life. You don't go through this without having an incredible story and having an incredible mission on the other end and incredible power to make a difference. And so we will have her another time. But for now, Lindsay, let's start with you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jason. So I was born in 1982 in Salt Lake City. I was raised LDS or Mormon. My mom came from strong pioneer ancestry. My dad also came from strong pioneer ancestry on his mom's side. His dad converted to the church when he met my grandma. He has a lineage of members of the Freemasons. My grandpa was born in 1909. My dad and his siblings have been pretty involved in public life, of politics, philanthropy, visionaries and creators of successful businesses, and some high-profile roles and connections. My dad started his tech company in Colorado, where they invented the first laser speed gun to detect speeding, and now has grown worldwide, and now makes instruments for military, the police force, hunters, and etc. I have an uncle who opened the first fine dining restaurant in downtown Salt Lake in 1980, which was the first restaurant to fly in fresh seafood inland, and has made downtown Salt Lake what it is today. And the restaurant is still open. Sadly, with new owners, as my uncle tragically got murdered by his husband in 2016. My oldest uncle has had involvement with all of the men in the family with their businesses. He has high-level connections one of which he met Jeb Bush, George Bush's brother, for a business deal. This is all relevant to know, as I believe it is these connections that played a role in my abuse. I will be getting into that later in the interview. My family moved to Littleton, a suburb outside of Denver, Colorado, when I was 5 due to my dad's business. This is where Ryan and my family connected, going to the same church and ward. Our moms became best friends and parents, going on trips together, and our moms are best friends to this day. I became a close childhood friend with Ryan's older sister. I'm a year older than Ryan. Ryan's sister and I did creative things together, things that I still like to do to this day, anything that's creative. I love painting, sewing, and my biggest passion is to learn about healing, how the body and mind work, and anything spiritually. I'm now working with teen boys at a lockdown facility treatment, which I love doing. That's a little bit about me. I'll let Ryan go from here.
Yeah. And she really has an incredible story. And I think when the time comes, it really shows the dynamics and how the foundation of, how deep this goes into the foundation of the state, religious and so many levels of, financial backbone of the state. So thank you, Lindsay.
Thanks, Jason.
Okay, boss, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
The man of the hour. We don't have a lot of male survivors. And so when Ryan called, we were ecstatic to talk to him. And he's an incredible man. Both of these two are just amazing. So tell us about Ryan.
Well, first, I appreciate that, especially the male survivor part. It's one of the main reasons that I wanted to be here speaking to everybody, because I don't think male survivors really get a voice often.
Yeah.
And also, I want to point out that abuse does not discriminate. It doesn't care male or female. So often we hear about abuse being, from a female victim perspective, and oftentimes it's not safe emotionally or mentally for men to speak up. And so I'd like to change that. Additionally, it's not a political view. It's not a religious view. I think you and I each have our differing political, religious views, and yet here we are fighting the same fight. And I think that's really great. And I'm grateful for the opportunity you've given me to have that voice. So thank you.
Well, we are, I can tell you, our audience, we are honored to have both of you guys today.
Thanks. So with that, a little bit about me, a little bit of background. I was born in Salt Lake, 1983. Like Lindsay said, she's a year older than I am. I was born into the church. We moved quickly from Utah to Colorado for my dad's work. I was 1 when we moved, and we eventually moved back from Colorado to Salt Lake when I was 10. Kind of get back to that a little bit later. I served a full-time mission. I served in Geneva, Switzerland. Still speak French, so if anybody out there speaks French, come say hi. We'll be friends. It's great. Was married in the Salt Lake Temple. Was married for about 18 years. I was an ordnance worker for a time, for about 5 years in the Salt Lake Temple, meaning that I pretty much did everything.
Yeah.
Memorized the endowment, acted all the parts from Elohim, Jehovah, Peter, James, and John. I even acted out the part of Satan in the Salt Lake Temple. It was an experience.
Yeah. So for our members who are not members of the church, I mean, that's like, they don't get much more ingrained than that, right? Like,
no, I mean, it was,
especially when you're acting out, not just, standing up there. You're literally have it all memorized. So that's a big
production.
Deal. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. Yeah. And that was important for me. That was me showing to God my devoutness, right? Yeah. And I'll kind of get into that in a minute as well. I have a 20-year career in real estate. I've done real estate pretty much since I got home from my mission. It started with my dad. He had a brokerage, and I joined up with him. Then we quickly started doing some investing in real estate together. And for about 15 years, he and I grew and led an investment venture, a real estate investment venture that was based out of Phoenix, Arizona. And then we ran that in conjunction with my brothers. We brought them on board. I have 2 younger brothers, 1 older sister. So I'm the second in line. And anyway, my brothers and I ran the company together for about 15 years. We were best friends. My dad and I, my brothers, we were like this. From the outside perspective, I was living the perfect LDS life. Okay, successful, great family, 2 kids, like close to family, great callings in the church, like really everything was just going, you know? Except it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
And can I just say how many times when we talk to survivors, like that's the funny thing is they almost always start off by saying, "Oh, it was the perfect life. Everything seemed like perfect Mormon life."
Oh yeah.
And you start digging, it's like,
well, the more perfect it seems, oftentimes the bigger the secret. And that was the issue, is that I had been carrying this secret my entire life. Okay, it was like this. It's like this undercurrent, right, that was happening, that I was holding back. Okay, so the secret that I'd been carrying was that I had been abused. I'd been sexually abused growing up when I was a kid. It started when I was 7. It ended when I say it ended. We'll call it a pause. It paused when I was 10. We moved, right? We moved back from Colorado to Salt Lake. And then there's stuff that happened after that, and we'll kind of get into that. But beginning with the stuff that happened when I was 7, it really drove me, thank you, it really drove me into what's called religious scrupulosity. Are you familiar with that term?
Say it again.
Religious scrupulosity.
Where you become hyper religious? Is that like focused on some of the
hyper obedient would be the way that I would describe it. I had an extreme fear of doing anything wrong, because if I did anything wrong, people were going to start to question. And if people started to question, they were going to find out about the abuse. And I couldn't have that. I did not want anybody to find out about the abuse. So when it started, okay, let me back up. So there were things that happened with my abuse that I would describe or define as being common sexual abuse. Okay?
Okay.
Unritualistic by nature, just sexual abuse. Okay? And there were aspects of that, the commonality parts, that really drove me to this religious scrupulosity. In those parts, I was threatened that if I didn't comply, that my family would be told about everything that had already happened, and that they would think that I was this monster, that I was unlovable, and that I would ultimately be alone. Now, you tell that to a 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old, and you might as well hold a gun to their head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that drove me into believing that if anybody found out about my abuse, if anybody found out what I had in my mind at the time done, that I would be dead. It was a life or death decision for my child mind. Okay? And so I could not do anything wrong. Religious scrupulosity, hypervigilance towards obedience, it was in the extreme for me. And one of the really beautiful doctrines of the church that you learn early on in primary is that families can be together forever. It's great. I love that. But if you believe that, the inverse is also true. If families can be together forever, they may also not be, right? It's conditional. And I picked up on that really early on, that the conditional portion of that beautiful doctrine.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, okay, if they can't be, what's going to cause them not to be? Obviously, it's sin. Now, in my little kid mind, all I knew was that I had done things that were wrong. I didn't know how wrong. I just knew they were wrong. And the more I grew up, the older I got, I learned more and more how wrong they were. And I learned that I had actually ruined, or I internalized the idea that I had ruined my family's chances of being together forever. And that my only way out was to prove to God through my exact obedience that I was more than my abuse, that I was more than what happened to me, that I was good. It was a lot. It was a lot to carry. What I didn't know then, even with all of that weight, was that I was still only remembering the lesser abuse, okay? The, not even all of the common abuse, but even the lesser parts of the common abuse that I'd been through. That's what I was remembering on my daily. There was still something much, much larger just lurking beneath my surface. And that's kind of what it is with PTSD. You don't really know what you don't know sometimes, because when you're going through the experience, when you're going through the trauma, your brain just decides, okay, that, hey, this is too much. This experience is too extreme. We might actually die here, man. So we're going to take this and we're just going to yoink it to the side until it's safe. We're going to put it on the back burner until we're okay to process it. For me, that processing started in 2016. So that was nearly 3 decades after the abuse. So for that 3 decades, I was in my religious scrupulosity, hypervigilant phase. Okay, just doing everything I could in the church, full on, pedal to the metal all the way. Then in 2016, my body started saying, okay, it's time. And it didn't happen all at once. It wasn't this like, bam, here's your memories. It was more like fissures, little cracks, okay? It started as... It started as emotional flashbacks. You familiar with that?
No.
So an emotional flashback is like a feeling, and there can be a trigger. Anything can trigger it. I didn't know what was triggering it for me at the time, but when I was intimate with my wife, I would have these really heavy feelings that were not normal. Okay, it was like this, just that really heavy feeling. And my wife could tell that I was not the same, that I was not present, that I, just was different, okay? That's how it started. She started to think that I was having issues, or I was addicted to pornography, or maybe I was cheating on her or whatever. My memories started coming back more in full. And in those intimate moments with her again, I started having really intrusive thoughts to the common abuse that I had experienced and remembered, which was essentially at the hands of a friend of mine and his older brother. That was the common abuse. And I'll talk about those memories in a minute. But basically, I went to my wife one day because it got pretty hard, right, as she was thinking that maybe I was being unfaithful. And so I called her up from work and I said, hey, I'm coming home. We need to talk. And she thought I was going to, disclose this whole affair or whatever. And instead I told her, hey, look, like I don't know what's happening, but I'm having these memories. from when I was a kid, and that I had been abused by my friend Marcus and his older brother, and that I was just having these issues when she and I were intimate together. She didn't really take it super well. I mean, how do you, it's kind of a hard thing to hear. I don't know. She basically sent me to my bishop to fix it. Kind of like a repentance thing. It was backwards.
Repenting for being abused.
Yeah, it was a little backwards. I think it scared her, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people don't know how to handle this when people start opening about abuse. There's a lot of really negative stigmas out there about abuse survivors, and for her at the time, it scared her. She didn't know what to make of it, So I went to my bishop and told him what I had remembered at the time, which again was just common abuse. I hadn't remembered anything that was ritualistic at all. And maybe this is uncommon to some stories, but my bishop was actually supportive at the time. He was great guy, and I wish I could remember the scriptures that he shared with me at the time. It was about Christ and forgiveness and love and this, and he basically tried to help me understand that what I had experienced, A, was abuse and was not something that I needed to repent for.
Good answer.
And B, that it wasn't my fault.
Good.
Because my whole life, that 3 decades, I had been internalizing that this was my fault, that I had ruined my family's chances at salvation, right? So he was like, no, man, you're okay. It took a long time for that message to set in, for me to accept that. At the time, I was like just relieved that I wasn't being excommunicated or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or that my life wasn't actually over. So he encouraged me to see a therapist, which was the first time I'd really been told or thought that therapy was maybe a thing. Just blew my mind. I was like, wait, what? Yeah, I need to go see a therapist? He's like, yeah, you should probably go see a therapist. I was like, once, twice? Like, what? He's like, just go. I'll work it out with you. I've been in therapy weekly for the last 6 years. So he kind of knew, or didn't know, but knew the journey that I was headed on. And that was kind of the beginnings of my healing journey, but I wasn't ready. Okay. I went home to my wife and I was like, look, says it's not my fault. Okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Might have been nice for him to tell her that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot there,
Yeah.
there's a lot there. And yeah, some of that I won't go into, just out of respect for my kids and their mom and different things.
Understood.
We're now divorced, which we'll get into, but not really. So I buried it, okay? Like 2016, went to the bishop. He was like, no, it's not your fault. It's okay, go. I buried it. I was like, cool, great. I'm back to hiding, okay? But PTSD doesn't care about that. Your brain decides when it's time to come out, and when it's time, it's time. So fast forward a couple of years, 2018, my wife came to me one day and she says, hey, I've been thinking about that thing you told me about, and I actually did a little research, and I think maybe you ought to read a book or talk to somebody about it. And I found this book. It was called Beyond Betrayal. I don't have a picture of it, but I was pretty nervous. And she just says, look, it's a book. You put it down, pick it up, whatever. It's no pressure. Just think about it. And I was working in Phoenix at the time with this investment venture that my dad and I had put together. We'd travel. We'd kind of rotate weeks, go down there. I'd travel alone, be down there a week, and then come back, be home with the family for a week, off and on. We did that for a couple of years. So on one of my weeks down there, I thought, okay, I'm going to read this book and just see. That book was like dynamite, okay, to my dam. And if you will, I have a metaphor that I can relate it to. So if you see the Swiss Valley in your mind, just any Swiss Valley, really tall mountainous peaks on either side of you, and down in the bottom of this valley, there's this little house, little property, okay? And outside of the house, outside of this property, there's this man, and he's there tending to his flock, right? It's all green and lovely, and everything's perfect, okay? And behind him is this huge, massive reservoir, this cement dam that dwarfs his house, okay? Just dwarfs it. One day, the guy notices that there are these fissures, again, in his dam, that there's some water leaking out. And he goes and he patches it, and it's fine. And then a while later, there's an explosion, massive, massive explosion. And all of the reservoir, all of the water that dam was holding back comes out, and this tsunami-like wave that is completely uncontrollable demolishes the man's property and sends him who knows where, right? And he's left to learn how to navigate, swim, survive this tsunami. That's what PTSD is like.
That's great. That's a great analogy.
So when I read Beyond Betrayal, there's nothing really wrong with the book. It's just very graphic. It's not one that I would recommend to somebody who's beginning their healing journey, because, again, it was just like, there goes my dam. You know, I'd built over 3 decades this huge reservoir holding back all of my trauma, and then I couldn't hold it back anymore. And it came out, I say this tsunami-like wave. What that means is flashbacks. We talked a little bit about emotional flashbacks. There's physical flashbacks, mental flashbacks, visual flashbacks. Like it's a whole thing. Basically, what that did is it launched me into a period of time that I call the Great Purge. It's like an undissociation of all of the things that I had forgotten. Okay, and it's not all at once. It's layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. It's an onion. And as I said, it kind of started with these memories that I'd had of the common abuse that I'd been through with my friend and his older brother, which was not, I say common, it was all the time. I was always at their house, and anytime I was there, it was happening. So we're talking about hundreds of events. That alone creates complex PTSD, or what's known as CPTSD. There's a massive difference between PTSD and CPTSD. PTSD is one event. It can be traumatic. It's awful. Don't mean to make light of it. CPTSD, however, is a multitude of events over a span of time that is inescapable, essentially. Okay. And that's more or less what happened to me. It's what happens to a lot of survivors, especially of ritual abuse. It's a complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So it started again with these memories of common abuse that were pretty extreme. I say extreme. It started with just touching and oral sex, that kind of thing. Progressed into role-playing, forced sex, both individually and together, forced to watch it 3 ways. It happened all the time, anytime I was at their house. Now, I was 7. My friend was 7. His older brother, I mean, you might know better than I, Lindsay. 3, that's my memory too, is 3 or 4. So I had him at like 11 when this started. So think
Big
about
age gap.
that. It is, but also an 11-year-old, look at the extremes of what I just said. Yeah. What 11 and 7-year-olds are doing that to each other? That doesn't just pop out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's coming from something.
Yeah.
So again, there was still this monster lurking underneath. And there were these evidences. The common abuse that I experienced and kind of the extremes of that were little evidences that, hey, there's something else to this, okay? we moved. We moved on Halloween Day. I remember it. I remember driving into our neighborhood in Utah. It felt totally weird. But the abuse stopped because we moved. At least to my memory, the abuse stopped with my friend and his older brother. And I was pretty isolated, self-isolated. Like I didn't have a lot of friends, not just because we had just moved, but also because I really was already dealing with a lot of PTSD. I just didn't know or understand it, and I didn't have any support. Okay. It's interesting because 4 years later, when I was 14, I went back. I didn't have any contact with my friend. This was in the early 90s, so like cell phones with kids, it was not a thing. The internet emailing was not really a thing then either. So when I moved, it really cut all contact that I had with anybody back then. I was 10 years old, so very reliant on my parents for pretty much everything. 4 years later, my mom came to me. I remember we were in the kitchen, and she goes, "Hey, wouldn't it be great to go back to Colorado and visit your friend for a week? Like, you're lonely, you don't have a lot of friends now. Wouldn't that be great?" I couldn't say no. I couldn't say anything, but yeah, that would be great, because if I did, that leads to a lot of questions that I couldn't answer, right? Otherwise, again, my life was over. I was full on in religious scrupulosity now, full on trying to hide what had happened. So yeah, sounds great, Mom. Let's do it. Let's go back. So that whole week, I was driven there by my grandparents, dropped off at my friend's house, and I didn't see or speak to anybody until I was picked up a week later. That whole week, most of my memories are in their basement, where I was locked in the basement. I don't know how to really describe it. The first memory that I had that came back from this, I've named a lot of my flashbacks. This one's the carpet memory, and it's the carpet memory because that's the first way it came back. I was sleeping at night, and I woke up to having this pulsing image of orange carpet, and that's all it was, coupled with a lot of physical sensations. So oftentimes when flashbacks come back, they are accompanied with physical memories, okay? And when I say a physical memory, you feel exactly what you would feel as if the event were happening right then, okay? So I would have a lot of that happening. With this carpet memory, when I processed that through therapy, through a lot of EMDR, through a lot of IFS, different therapeutic modalities that I've been working with, one of the first thing that I remember from that memory is actually a click, and it's the lock on the door at the top of the stairs. And the reason that that's important, the reason why I think I remember that lock, is because the lock on the door was reversed, meaning that to lock it, you had to be on the other side. You had to be at the top of the stairs on the other side, right, on the first floor of the house. So, somebody knew that they were locking me and somebody else in the basement when that door was locked, okay? That was the first thing. And then I hear foots coming down the staircase, and I'm frozen. I'm standing by this pool table, and things commence to happen. I get raped, and that's that flashback, okay? That was when I was 14. There's a lot of other memories from that week that I was there. I would still label them all as common abuse. None of it yet was ritualistic in my memory, okay? I had some other flashbacks, other issues that I didn't really label as abuse, didn't really think of as abuse. that I think are important to note here. The first is when I was 15, my parents went away to Hawaii, just on vacation, which is not uncommon. They left us with my grandparents, my mom's parents. Again, not uncommon. We had a fairly close relationship with them. They stayed at our house. It was fine. And one day I needed help and went looking for my grandpa and couldn't find him. Couldn't find him anywhere. Finally went up to my parents' bedroom, and the door was mostly shut, but not shut. Okay. So went, opened the door to find my grandpa having sex with my dog. Yeah. I was 15.
15.
I was 15. I didn't know what to do.
That's going to leave a mark.
Yeah, oh yeah. It did. And I turned and left, and I don't know how to describe the feeling, but I froze pretty much after going downstairs on the main floor, just like looking out into our front yard. And
Family dog?
Oh yeah.
Or your dog? We're one and the same.
Well, I mean, family dog. It wasn't my, yeah,
sick.
no, it's crazy, right? Yeah, I know. He came down. I was still frozen, just like staring out the window. And he stood behind me, didn't touch me. Stood behind me, said, "Well, sorry you had to see that." And then he turned and left. And that was it. So from that point on, having experienced that, or having seen that from my grandpa of all people, and then having experienced what I was with my friend and his older brother, now that's what I had remembered to this point. Men were now unsafe, completely unsafe, right? Yeah. So that also caused a lot of issues where I did not really want any male friends. I was not comfortable around men at all. It really took a lot for me to do that, growing up through high school even. I mean, I had a few close male friends, but even then I dated this one girl pretty much the whole time because I felt safe, all through high school. I mean, this what I'm saying, like this messes with you, right? Like it really. Yeah. How do you deal with this as a kid? I mean, I didn't know what this meant. I was internalizing all of these things from the church, all of these different things that I was, reading and talks and viewpoints of chastity from the church, knowing that I had been through all of this. And what did that mean about me? And was I gay? Did it make me gay? Did I come? Like, what is this even? It was horrible. I didn't know how to make sense of any of it. I found out pretty quick I wasn't gay. I'm straight. I dated this girl again all through high school. Got married in the temple. That was great. But before I get too far ahead of that, there's another experience that I want to highlight. So I didn't really understand this as abuse until much later. You'll understand what I mean. So, for those who are not LDS, okay, when you serve a mission, there's a pre-mission medical exam. They want to make sure that you're healthy and whatever, they go out there. Mine was interesting. I didn't realize it at the time, but there was a family friend who was a doctor who was a member of our ward, and my parents had arranged with him to do this medical exam for me. Great. Doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with that. They sent me up to his house for the exam. I didn't go to a hospital or doctor's office. It was at his house. It was just he and I. There was nobody else there. My parents did not accompany me. And it was in his home office, which is like a library office, kind of like wooden desk, leather chair, books on the shelves, that kind of thing. I didn't think anything of it. So you gotta remember my mindset at the time. total religious scrupulosity. I would have just about murdered, except that would have ruined the whole religious scrupulosity thing, to go on a mission, right? I would have done anything to go on that mission. And I was terrified because I knew some of what I had been through. I just didn't know what that looked like on me physically.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought for sure this doctor was going to figure that out real quick. So I was terrified. I went into his house, didn't think anything weird at all. Didn't think twice about it. He shut the door to his office. Again, it was just he and I. Tells me to get undressed. There's no gown. There's nothing. Just stand against the wall. So I stand against the wall. Again, didn't think anything of it. He gets his chart out, gets his stethoscope, starts doing regular checks. Didn't seem weird. Checks my pulse, checks my breathing, has me cough, whatever. It's fine. And then it shifts totally. And he goes, okay. So this next part is going to make us both a little uncomfortable. But we're both men. And we can handle it. We're both mature adults. And the church just needs to know and make sure that your body is functioning in all of its ways.
And this is what he said to you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. As verbatim as I can make it. He came and stood in front of me against the wall. My back's to the wall. Okay. And he proceeded to give me a hand job until I came into his hand. Again, we just need to make sure that your body is functioning before the church sends you out. Okay? It was uncomfortable, all right. He said it would be. Then he had me lay on his desk. He said, lay on your side, and I want you to spread your legs. And he sat behind me in a chair and proceeded to finger me for, I don't know how long. Seemed like minutes, at least. Again, I don't know medical stuff. I was 18. I was just terrified that he was doing anything down there and that I was going to be found out for what I had already done that would exclude me from being able to serve a mission, which in my mind would essentially end my life. I got dressed. I walked home. I walked home happy. Because he had signed my paperwork. I was going. My mom asked me, she goes, so how'd it go? It was fine. Didn't say a word.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is this guy still practicing?
Good question. So my therapist encouraged me to look that up. It took me some time to muster that courage. A few months ago, I finally did look him up, and he is retired. My mind is right. It was in 2008 that he retired, so he's no longer practicing. But Dr. Nelson Wright.
Dr. Nelson Wright.
Dr. Nelson Wright. Yep. Valley View 6th Ward. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. So,
thank you.
I didn't think anything of that, actually, until I started
What
therapy.
ward?
Valley View 6th.
Where's that at?
It's the Valley View Steak. It's in Mill Creek. Yeah. I don't remember his street name. I think, yeah, anyway, doesn't matter. I didn't think anything of it until I started talking to my therapist about the actual abuse that I'd been through. And then I started having these intrusive thoughts to my pre-mission medical experience. And I talked to my wife about it, and she, by that time, had started to experience compassion fatigue towards me. Because, again, the tsunami of, PTSD is very, very real and is difficult on a relationship. There's no way about that. So she kind of was like, look, man, it's enough. It's like enough. But my therapist was like, oh no, that's an issue. And that's a big problem. Yeah. So started working with her through that. And I had a lot of self-blame. I had a lot of really self-hatred, to be honest. Like I just internalized all of it, that I was this demonic monster who had this weird sex thing. I don't know what to even describe. So my therapist was trying to encourage me to really lean into self-forgiveness, right? It's a principle we're all very familiar with in the church. And I was in Phoenix at the time. Sorry, I got to take a drink.
Yeah. It's heavy, man. It's heavy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It is heavy.
It's just hard. You know what I mean? It's just hard to hear this stuff and to know that people like that just run free. And
it's kind of wild, right? It's kind of wild. So I was in Phoenix again, and I was thinking about what my therapist was trying to get me to do as far as self-forgiveness goes, and leaning into that. And I remembered a book that was in the church called The Miracle of Forgiveness. And I say that a lot of people are familiar with that book. I wasn't at the time. But I remembered it, I think, from my house. I'm not sure. There was a time I thought that it was maybe part of the missionary library, or missionary. There was a missionary library at one time, but it's actually not part of that. It was written by then Elder Kimball, who later became President Kimball. He wrote it when he was an apostle. But when I was in Phoenix, I thought, man, this is perfect, Ryan. Miracle of Forgiveness. This is just what you need. Like, written by an apostle? Are you kidding? How have you not seen this? I was excited. I got on my.
Imagine.
No, I did. I got on my iPad onto Deseret Book, and you can't actually buy a hard copy anymore. Thank God. They only sell a digital copy, and even then, I think it's hard to get now. But it was.
I think they've redone it too. I think it's been like completely redone.
Well, I mean, for like 50 years, this thing was in publication throughout the church. Like, it was a big deal, right? It was a big deal. So I thought, this is amazing. It's just what I need. And also, true to me, I was like, I'm going to skip to the chapters that apply. So I went straight to chapters on childhood abuse. Okay, there's a lot in that book. Kind of wish I hadn't have done that. There are several quotes in that book from President Kimball where he's actually quoting other prophets and apostles in the church to share their views on abuse, to help build his case for his view on abuse. And I'm just going to read some of what I read that day.
I'm curious.
Okay. Yeah. The first one, there is no true Latter-day Saint who would not rather bury a son or daughter than to have him or her lose his or her chastity, realizing that chastity is of more value than anything else in all the world. That was the prophet Heber J. Grant, written in Gospel Standards. President David O. McKay pleaded, "Your virtue is worth more than your life. Please, young folk, preserve your virtue, even if you lose your lives." President Kimball taught about rape victims' responsibility to fight their attackers to the death. He said, "Also far-reaching is the effect of loss of chastity. Once given or taken or stolen, it can never be regained. Even in a forced contact such as rape or incest, the injured one is greatly outraged. If she has not cooperated and contributed to the foul deed, she is, of course, in a more favorable position. There is no condemnation where there is no voluntary participation. But it is better to die in defending one's virtue than to live having lost it without a struggle." Now, I didn't fight. I didn't fight, Jason. It is better to die in defending one's virtue than to live having lost it without a struggle. Enter that into my religious, scrupulous mind, where I had given my entire life to the church. I was working as an ordinance worker through most of my 30s, 8, sometimes 16 hours a week extra. I gave everything to the church. And here the prophet said, hey man, it's better that you're dead because you didn't fight when you were abused.
Wow.
Those words sent me instantly into a suicidal rage. I, again, was alone. I grabbed a sheet off of my bed, coiled it as fast as I could, tied it around the the closet hanging rod. Wrapped around my neck, I was going to hang myself prison style, feet out front, just sit my ass down. Tried it, I broke it, sat in a heap. And luckily, I'd brought my dog. I was having such a hard time at night. Nights are the worst. The flashbacks when I was alone at night were really hard for me to manage. So I started bringing my dog on these work trips. I drove to Phoenix instead of flying. And I'd bring her with me, and I sat there on a heap just bawling. She came over and licked my face, pulled me out of it emotionally, and got me to a point where I kind of came to my senses a little bit, called my wife, told her what happened. She freaked, as you would. Told me to come home immediately. So I threw my dog in the car and drove 12 hours home through the night, all through the night. Got home the next day, and after trying to process what had happened with her, she said, hey, you got to go talk to your parents. My dad still thought I was working down in Phoenix. He had no idea what had happened. I had told my parents about my abuse when the trauma dam broke a couple years prior to this attempt. Their response, I'll just say, has been less than supportive, especially on the part of my dad. He is not aware of anything that I've been talking about regarding my abuse other than it involving those common abuse experiences. And yet his response to me has been extreme in the lack of support. We'll kind of get to that in a minute. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
I'll just say this. We've talked about Utah being one of the highest in the country for child suicide rate. Comments like that. I'm a father. I've got kids, and I couldn't disagree more with those statements. It's just heartbreaking.
Thank you. Thank you. No, thank you for saying that. And actually, that was really well
It's
timed.
not the God I serve.
No, but just wait, because I did. I went I went to my parents' house. I say back. We lived like 2 miles away from each other at the time. So I drove over to their house, and tensions were already kind of high. Again, they were not super supportive of me. We'd had issues because of that leading up to this point. But I was still kind of holding on to hope that things would work out. I was still working with my dad. Like we were, I had just come back from a work trip. So that was all fine. And I went back to their house, sat in their living room, told them what had happened. Hi, I'm back from Phoenix. And this is what I found out. This is what happened. This is what I read, quoted to them exactly what I just read to you guys. And my dad, first thing my dad said to me was, I can't even look at you, Jason. Sorry. He said, "That's the best book I've ever read. No true Latter-day Saint would not rather bury their son or daughter than to have him lose their chastity." So that didn't go over well. I don't remember what happened after that, other than I stormed out and emotions ran high. That caused me to, a couple things happened after that. First, I looked deeper into the church's view on abuse. Oddly, that's a topic that I'd kind of stayed away from because I was afraid. I was afraid of what it said about me, all growing up. And so I just was like, no, I'll look at everything else. So I decided to look deeper into the views on abuse, and I found a lot of what you would think, right? There is a lot of love and forgiveness and, more of a supportive message, maybe. And that's fine. But there is also a lot of what I found, which is more of what I just read to you. Stuff from Gordon B. Hinckley. I know what my mother expects. I know what she says in her prayers. She'd rather have me come home dead than unclean. Okay. So now we've heard it from 4 different prophets. 4. President Romney. Better dead, clean, than alive and unclean.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Who is this?
That was President Marion Romney in the 1981 Ensign. He went on to explain an interaction with his father where he was going out on a train, and his father said, "When you are released and return, we shall be glad to greet you and welcome you back to the family circle. But remember this, my son, we would rather come to this station and take your body off the train in a casket than to have you come home unclean, having lost your virtue."
Yeah, well, I happen to know about some of these men and some of the things that go on when they're not standing at the pulpit, and which makes it a little bit more infuriating.
Oh, yeah.
Which will come out. In fact, we've already had the show from the Mormon Monarch naming some of these exact men. And to me, that's what really just...
Yeah,
anyways.
It's rampant. It's everywhere. And it's part of why I want to speak up about this is because this is happening now. This didn't just happen to me 30 years ago.
No father who loves his children. I'm just a fellow man sitting here and hearing your story. My heart breaks. I don't see how a loving Father in heaven who created you doesn't weep for you, let alone a harsh father said, "I'd rather you dead."
Thank you. Thank you. There's other quotes. Elder Scott, Elder Packer. Elder Packer. His talk to young men only.
Yeah, he is one that's named often.
Man.
I'm sorry to those of you who are members of the church who probably feel like I'm very harsh on some of these men. You haven't sat with the countless victims and seen their lives wrecked and heard these men involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I for one, I'm tired of, I know they're telling the truth. And so for me, I'm just at a point where this is not okay.
No.
And it's especially not okay when it's coming from the shepherds, those who should be loving the most.
Well, so that's exactly where my mind went, Jason. I remembered this scripture. I was a pretty big scriptorian for a while. DNC 121:34 through 40. Okay, you might be familiar with how it starts. Behold, there are many called, but few are chosen. And it goes on to say, and why are they not chosen? It talks about the priesthood and the principles that the priesthood, the principles by which the priesthood is supposed to be governed. Okay, which are obviously under righteousness, right, and service and goodness and love and charity and the things that you would expect. And it goes on to say that if it's anything but that, right, that the, let me just find it, okay.
Amen to the priesthood authority of that man. Right?
Yeah, there you go. Amen to the priesthood or authority of that man. So I'm reading that. I'm looking at all of these quotes. I'm looking at the miracle of forgiveness. I'm looking at all of these, not just leaders in the church, but actual apostles, actual prophets who are saying these really horrific things about survivors. And I think, what the heck? What's going? Amen to the priesthood of that man. I'm sorry. Amen to the priesthood of that man. What does that mean for the rest of the church? I'm not saying that there's not good in the church. Don't get me wrong. I have a lot of people, a lot of family that are still in the church that I love dearly, that I think need the church. I think the church can do a lot of good. However, when there's a pile of garbage between or behind your couch in this perfectly clean living room, and you go behind and you see the pile of garbage, you can't unsee that. It's still there, right? It's still there. And
I can completely understand where you're coming from.
so I left. I went and I talked to my bishop, a different one, different time, but this one was equally supportive. I told him everything that I had remembered to that point, everything that had happened, everything that I'd read. He gave me his blessing. Sent me to the stake president. They said the same thing. He said, look, it's okay. It's okay for you to go. The Lord forgives you. God forgives you. You can go. It's okay for you to remove your name from the church. It's okay.
Well, I mean, there's some good, phenomenal people in the church, but it doesn't make all of it good, and there is some absolute evil.
Yeah. So I did. I had my name removed. And I don't know how many people you've talked to that have done that themselves. I was not excommunicated. I did not do anything wrong. I just could not stand for what was happening, what did happen to me, and it was no longer a safe place for me to be anymore. So I removed my name. The church sent me an exit letter, which I'm pretty sure is a boilerplate letter. But it basically stripped me of all blessings, all rights, all covenants, all, approval or approbation of the Lord, everything that I had done, everything that I had sacrificed for. It was like, you're done.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Like I say, I'm pretty sure you've got a Father in heaven that loves you and doesn't is not and understands and is not like that.
I think so too. And I want to show you a picture. We'll pull this up on the screen, I guess, later. But so when that happened, I was pretty broken, and I decided to do something, to take my own authority back, because nobody from that point was going to tell me my standing with God. I'd sacrificed too much. I had been too obedient. I had been exacting in every way that I could. All right. So I decided to take that letter, and I was going to run it to the highest peak here in the Salt Lake Valley, which is Lone Peak. And I was going to burn that letter on the mountain. And as a symbol, I was going to take my authority back. Right. And I did that. And that photo is a picture of me sitting on the top of Lone Peak alone. And that was right before I took the letter out. So I took the letter out, and I'm standing on the peak. I reach in my backpack to get the lighter, only to realize I'd left the lighter in my Jeep all the way down to the head of the trail. I was so mad. But I decided it was okay because it was pretty windy. I mean, it's a big cliff. If you've ever been up there, it's this massive cliff. And I shredded it, just as many pieces as I could. Just shredded it, and I held it in my hands, and I took it and I threw it as far as I could in the wind in this magical moment, just and it was gone. And I knew in that moment that I was okay with God, and that it was okay for me to walk my path. And that's what this has become. This is my path, my journey, my healing.
I love it.
Thank you.
That's powerful. Thank you.
Things didn't get better with my family. They got worse, a lot worse. My dad and brothers invited me to take a sabbatical from work. They offered to pay me while I did it. They said, hey, man, you know, we see that you are having a hard time and you need to heal. So why don't you go and do that? Whatever you need. 3 months, 6 months, a year. My dad even said 2 years. Take 2 years if you need to take it. It's fine. We want you back. Door's always open. You just let us know when you're okay. Okay? I did that. 3 months later, 4 months later, somewhere in there, I get a call from our CPA, the company CPA. He says, hey, man, I need you to come in and sign this paperwork. Okay, it was not tax season, so okay, it's fine. And he thought I had known, but what he'd proceeded to try to get me to sign was documentation moving all of my ownership from the company that I was a part of to a new company that my dad and brothers had formed during my sabbatical that I was no longer a part of. So, in other words, my dad and brothers tried to write me out of the company while I was away, and they were effective in that because my dad had retained all voting rights of the company when he and I formed it. He shaped it as this thing, you know, I have so much ownership, interest. I have so many shares in the company. He has so many shares. At first, it was something akin to 60-40, and then we brought my brothers on board, and it got reduced down to something less. I think I ended up with like 32 at the end of the day, percent ownership, and that was all stolen. And I hired a couple of attorneys, or went and talked to a couple of attorneys and said, hey, this is what's going on. And they said, this is awful and outrageous, but you're going to lose because your dad had all voting rights. Your ownership, your stock holding shares, none of that matters. It's the voting rights. And so he can absolutely form a new company without you and move all of your equity, all of the assets, everything over to this new company, and there's nothing you can do. So that's what they did. Lost my mind. I called an emergency meeting and went up there. And that was the last time I spoke to my dad and brothers. It didn't go very well. They proceeded to tell me that I had no ownership in the company, that the company had lost value, and that I actually owed them nearly $100,000 if I was going to leave, but that I had to leave because I wasn't a part of it anymore. And anyway, long story short, it just blew up. I asked my dad why he was doing all of this, and he said point blank, because you have villainized me. Which is interesting because I'd never said anything against my dad. I'd never talked about anything other than this common abuse that I'd remembered to that point. And he told me verbatim, there's no place for you here anymore. You need to go find somewhere else. So
Reminds me of River's story.
It was rough. My ex-wife, is an oil painter, pretty good oil painter, actually. And she has been selling her work for over a decade. She's built up this career. So when this happened, we decided that we were going to use the money that we'd saved up from my real estate career. We were going to pay off the house, and we were going to go and live our best artist lives. As part of my healing journey, my therapist had encouraged me to get into creativity and using my hands, and I'd started wood turning, which is what these pieces are that you see in front of you. And I began wood turning as a way to stay grounded. It was kind of an active meditation. Thank you.
Really beautiful.
Thank you. There's a lot of symbolism in my work. At first, I really wanted to make something perfect, the perfect bowl, something that didn't have any imperfections. And I quickly learned, or the wood taught me, that that's not a thing, that perfection is not a thing, and that I needed to learn to live with and even learn from the imperfections that I was fighting so hard against. Yeah, it was really this beautiful metaphor for my own life, right? And so I started to see the cracks and the holes running alongside the pure grain of the wood as this beautiful metaphor to life. And really without those cracks and without those holes, the beauty would not be as complete. It would not be the same. So I feel like our lives are the same. And my bowls have become kind of this study on the equanimity of life, or learning to accept both the good and the bad that happens. I found a lot of healing in it. So when I got written out of the company, I dove headlong into this wood turning, and I spent all of my time doing it. If I wasn't in therapy or playing with my kids, I was turning wood in my garage. There's a light in there. Yeah, turn that on. Yeah, turn that on. I'll show it. It's a metaphor. So in my...
I hope the camera can catch that.
In my therapy, I did a lot of meditation work. And there's a guided meditation that I do that talks about exploring the broken pieces in the depths of your heart. And you have this kind of guide that is with you on this meditation that's guiding you through these voids and these crevices. And one day I was listening to this. It's about a 20-minute long meditation. I was listening to this in my garage as I'm working at my lathe. And I just got lost in this piece that I was working with. It wasn't this actual piece, but it was similar to where it had these cracks and these holes. So I'm listening to this meditation about exploring the own cracks and holes of my own heart and the devastation that I feel, and I'm seeing this now actively in what I'm working with. The meditation goes on to explain that through the exploration of those broken pieces, we find little shards or fragments of light. And we can collect these little broken pieces, and they're beautiful, and they're valuable. And as we collect them, we begin to understand and see that we're healing, right? And so with my art, I started to put these lights on the inside of them to symbolize those broken pieces that are still valuable, those lights that we can collect.
Oh, that's really profound, Ryan.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
I assume you sell these.
Yeah, so I started selling them, 4 years ago. Utah Arts Festival was the first place I sold at. I now have a website. It's called turningfromthewoods.com. Same on Instagram. I sell a lot through Instagram. My handle's the same. Turning from the woods. Turning from the woods. And I started doing a lot of shows. The Utah Arts Festival has been pretty successful for me. I've had a good acceptance there, I guess, and it gave me the courage to start traveling around. And now I travel all over the West. I've been to Bend, Oregon. I've been to California. I've been to Tucson, Arizona. I just got back from Telluride, Colorado, not too long ago. It's not what I do full time. I'm still in real estate. But this is meaningful enough to me that I'm trying to share my message and this work with the world. So
Turning from the wounds.
Woods.
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 Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll put that up on the screen.
Yeah, Turning from the Woods. Yeah. I try to keep that up to date. It's a little outdated. Sorry about that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd love to buy something.
Fine. Thank you.
I'd love to get something.
Thank you.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Appreciate that. So my ex and I, we really dove into our artistic lives. Okay, we really wanted that to be our thing, but it wasn't it wasn't in the cards. PTSD had me in its grips, and I was continuing to have flashbacks, new flashbacks. I had healed a lot of the common abuse. Okay, to that point, it had been years of therapy. That great purge era that I talked about was about 2.5 years long. So it had been some time. And about when I started opening up about the pre-mission medical issues, my ex, the best way to describe it is just compassion fatigue. And then I started having memories that didn't make sense, memories that were really bizarre and were not, didn't seem linked to the common abuse that I'd experienced. Okay. The first one that I had, I remember I was laying in bed next to her at night, and the way my flashbacks worked, I would just be normal. We would be here sitting together. If I were triggered, I'd just be gone. Maybe 5 seconds, maybe 10 seconds. I'm just dissociated, like checked out. In my mind, I'm experiencing the actual trauma again. Okay. To you, I'm just sitting here. You don't know anything. When I come back, it's like I was just raped again. So it's very emotional for me. For you, I look like I'm crazy. Okay. So I'm with my ex. We're in bed. Have a flashback. It wasn't uncommon. I'd had hundreds at that point that she had seen and witnessed and helped me through. But this one was different. I was in a bathroom. I was 8 years old. I felt 8 years old. Okay. I remember pink tile. You know, like the 70s, pink tile is so common. My friend, the one who I had been experiencing abuse with, his mom was there. And it was just she and I. And she was cleaning me off. And I was covered in blood, head to toe, naked, covered in blood. What? I didn't know what to think about that. I literally thought I was crazy. I thought that all of my PTSD, all of these symptoms, this tsunami that I was experiencing had finally addled my brain. Finally snapped. I was making stuff up. So no, what is that? What does that even mean? How can I? It doesn't make any sense. My wife had the same reaction. You got to stop. You got to stop this. It's enough. Like, when is it? When are you, like, no, go get help. I was already getting help, but like, my body knew at that time that it was no longer safe to come out. Okay. So again, with the dissociation and the PTSD and your brain deciding when it's safe and when it's not safe, it was no longer safe. So I shut down and I continued to work through in therapy the flashbacks, intrusive thoughts, and other PTSD symptoms that I had already described with the common abuse. Things didn't get better with my ex and I. There's a lot to say there. But again, out of respect for my kids, I think, and for her, I'll leave it at that, and just say that I think a lot of what I experienced and a lot of what I was coming out about triggered things in her that made it really difficult for both of us. So ultimately, we got divorced. 18 years. It's a long time. We have 2 kids together. The divorce led to more therapy, as it does. And my flashbacks picked up again. They right where they left off, and with my friend and not my friend, with my friend's mom in the bathroom, and then I started having other flashbacks that I couldn't quite make sense of either, that seemed to be unrelated to my friend's mom. Okay, first flashback that I had, I was again, I felt like I was 8 years old. I was in a room, a dark room, not by myself, but in a dark room, naked, going to gather my thoughts. Dark room, 8 years old, naked, on the floor. I cannot move. Paralyzed. I can open my eyes, I can see, but I can't talk, and I'm just in kind of a fetal position. That's the first that I recalled of that memory. And again, it comes out in layers. Okay, so over a period of maybe a month, okay, that flashback grew to where I was now seeing that I was surrounded by 5 hooded figures, black robes, hoods over their heads, can't see their faces, all around me in a circle. And they're chanting something. I can't make it out. They finish what they're chanting and they pick me up and proceed to dunk me, completely immerse me into a tub of blood that was then behind us, right? And that's it. That's all I remember from that. I was processing all of those memories to that point. Pretty soon after my divorce, I was driving home from an art show in Tucson, Arizona, and I was with my girlfriend. I remember it like it was yesterday. We were driving from Tucson, Phoenix, up through Flagstaff, and then on through Utah. And as we get into Flagstaff, I got a text message from somebody in my past. But before I get into that text, I need to mention one other thing, which is about 3 months prior to that trip, I had begun having really intrusive thoughts to a time when I think I was 9. Could have been 10, but maybe 9. It was in Colorado. I was with my friend, and we were in the middle of it. Okay, we were naked, going at it. And Lindsay actually saw us, walked in on us.
Wow.
Yeah. I was horrified, obviously. I mean, gosh, in any instance, I don't care if it was then or now, I'd be horrified, right? But the reason I was horrified then is because Lindsay now was the one person that could out me. She was a threat. Remember, my life was on the line here. My family's salvation. Like, not just my life, my family's salvation. So I was terrified that Lindsay had seen what she'd seen and that now she was going to go tell my sister, who was her best friend, what she saw. And again, my life was over.
Yeah.
So Lindsay became this person my whole life that I was terrified of. Like, just could not even talk to, right? Barely. 3 months prior to driving home from Tucson, I started having intrusive thoughts to that memory of seeing Lindsay, seeing me, and this whole thing. And I started talking to my therapist about it in our sessions, just working through, like, oh my gosh, there's this girl and whatever, and the whole thing. The text message that I got was from Lindsay. Okay, and I had not talked to or spoken to Lindsay for at least 15 years prior to that. So out of the blue, I'm talking about Lindsay in therapy for months. And then I'm driving home from an art show and I get a text and she says, "Hey, Ryan, it's Lindsay Williams." I mean, I don't remember verbatim, but she basically said, "Hey, my mom says that you have left your family and that you're not talking to them anymore and that you have opened up about some things that have happened in your past." And she said, "I also left my family. And there are things that have happened in my past, and maybe I would understand. So if you need somebody to talk to or somebody that might understand you, reach out." It blew my mind, Jason. I had not, again, I was afraid. I was terrified of her.
Hey guys, just a quick little message. I want to thank you for all of your support. This fight means the world to us. There is nothing more important, and there is no cost we will not pay to fight it. One of the things that allows us to fight, especially with the lawsuit, we do have to have funding, and we have partnered with Sentry H2O. We partner with them because I absolutely believe in what they do, and I believe it is necessary. We've talked about how toxic the water is in this state. There is a reason we have the health issues that we have in this state. The people struggling with gender, all these issues that are coming up right now with the low testosterone, what's in the water, the pharmaceuticals that are being found in the water. Sentry H2O filters all of that out, but leaves the minerals which are designed your body needs. If you don't have a water system, please look into it. Check it out. They have a whole house system, but they also have something for those of you who can't afford it, just simply an under the sink RO unit that is just a little over $300, especially when you use our code We Are the People. If it's something you're interested in, please go to our website, wearethepeople.org, click on Wellness, and then scroll down. You'll see the options, and make sure you put in We Are the People for your 10% discount. This is how we're funding our fight and also trying to make a difference at the same time. So thank you for all your support. Thank you for fighting with us. We believe in you. We believe this matters. There's nothing more important than the fight for freedom, and we're just thankful for everything all of you do to help us in the fight. God bless you, and we'll get back to the show.
So yeah, maybe she can tell you how that even happened.
Yes,
Like that's a wild story.
Let's transition to Lindsay. Lindsay, what in the world? How did this come about? What happened?
Okay, so mind you, I still to this day don't even remember that. I don't even remember walking in on Ryan.
I'm so grateful.
I'm a professional person
Yeah.
who can process memories, so I could probably get into that if I wanted to, but no, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
So 2 years ago, so I had reconciled my relationship with my mom at this point, and I met up with my mom, and, she's giving me the gossip, filling me in. Oh my gosh, the biggest news of today is, Ryan left his family. He's accusing Marcus, who I grew up with, also abusing him, and I'm just trying to connect the dots. So growing up, our family was always compared to Ryan's family. They were the Brady Bunch anyway, if you don't know who that is, or Martha Stewart, his mom, and I mean, even just with Ryan's interview today, I mean, oh my gosh, he's so calm, cool, and collected. And I mean, gosh, hearing everything that my mom was saying, the narrative that she was telling me was just wild. There were so many red flags to what she was saying.
Yeah.
Especially with what I've gone through in my own life. I couldn't trust my mom at this time anyway. And so I just really wanted to reach out to Ryan. I was like, oh my gosh, I could relate in so many ways. And so my first gut instinct was to reach out to him. And I said this to my mom. Not even a blink. She said, no, don't do that. I'm like, what? And mind you, our families, well, with our moms, we've always been updated on what's going on with each other's families. So it's almost like, even though we hadn't talked in 15 years, it's like I went to Ryan's wedding. I went to his siblings' weddings.
Yeah, close families.
Yeah,
our moms
close
our moms
families.
are best friends today, like to this day.
Yeah, to this day. My mom ended up moving back to Salt Lake in 2004. And so within those years, she even worked for Ryan and his family. So anyway, I just was so compelled to reach out to Ryan. I was like, learning, okay, if you're getting like these sides of the stories, the best way is just to reach out and hear, Ryan's truths. What was so wild was that night, my mom and I went out to dinner, and my intuition was just telling me to go to this certain restaurant that I would have never picked. It was at the bottom of my list. And while we're there, here comes in Ryan's sister, who I hadn't seen in over 15 years with her family. And I was just in so much shock. Like, God, can you give me a bigger sign? Well, I ended up getting a bloody nose, which was something that was so bizarre. I never get bloody noses. My mom's just staring at me like I'm an alien, like, what is going on, but trying to keep it cool. And I'm like, Mom, like, what is going on? And so I ended up getting Ryan's sister's number from my mom, and I had texted his sister and got Ryan's number from her. It was just really brief and short. She never reached out again. But yeah, oh my gosh. So I'm here to support Ryan, and my story is just so big, and so just with the time that we have, I'm just going to be, pretty short. So at this time when I texted Ryan, I was about 15 years into my healing journey. So at this time, I was working through addiction. I was sexually confused, which I think is important to say. I had thought maybe I was a lesbian. So going along with Ryan's story, I had a lot of issues with men in my life. So I also then found out that, I had been sexually abused. This included incest and trafficking to satanic ritual abuse, all the way to being subjected to trauma-based mind control techniques in a highly organized medical facility setting. However, at this time, I didn't know how interconnected Ryan and my abuse actually was. So as a child, I think this is also important to talk about, is I just felt like an outcast. I think this goes into the diagnosis of being sexually abused and what happens to a child. I had learning disabilities. I've struggled with depression and anxiety, panic attacks, the fear of the dark. I grew up even till my 30s having to have a nightlight in my room. I always had a conscious fear of being taken out of my bed. This is embarrassing to say, but in my late teens, I actually slept in my sister's bed. It was around the age of 15 till I moved out, just sleeping next to the wall, because I was just so scared. I struggled with suicidology. The first time was actually when I was 15 years old. I too had a miracle that happened where, you know, something stopped me and I didn't follow through with that. I had another experience later on in life where the same thing, I had another miracle that happened that interfered where I didn't take my own life. And that's why I feel so strongly that, you know, I'm here today to share this and to talk about it. Despite these miraculous interventions that kept me alive, I continue to struggle and develop addictions to cope. I got my first DUI at the age of 19. I wasn't even the legal age to drink, which is crazy. I ended up moving home with my mom and got reconnected back with the church. It was an ultimatum that she had for me to move in with her, was to go back to church. I got married in the temple just a year later, at the age of 20. My marriage only lasted for 2 years. And right after, I ended up relapsing and getting back into addiction. This was in 2005. So in 2008, I got my second DUI, and this is when my healing journey began. It wasn't until 2015 that my subconscious mind felt safe enough to begin the process of unlocking some of what my conscious mind had blocked of my intensely traumatic childhood abuse. I've learned that there's reasons why we dissociate and block out the traumatic events. Kind of going off of what Ryan was talking about. It's so shocking and horrific of what happens to us that the dissociation actually becomes like a protector to our nervous system to help us stay alive. When this takes place and becomes frequent, dissociative disorders come to play, a sense of detaching, and there's identity alterations. I've learned that Satan loves this as we become more detached to who we really are and capable of being, which makes perfect sense. There's a process of the memories coming back, and they're all earth-shattering and can't have the full story at once, or we would die. When I began seeing people in attempts to unlock the root cause of why I struggled with the things I did, I had an awareness and concern about the dangers of my memories being tainted or influenced in a way by the therapist. I was acutely aware of this and made sure to avoid any possibility of false or suggested memories. During the process, I was always able to stop at any time, to leave, get up, move, and I was aware of what was going on around me at all times, and I was always in charge of the process, never pressured in any way. In order to get access to the most difficult memories, keeping me stuck, I had to completely cut myself off from my family, sensing this was holding me back. I was living with my mom at this time. There were a lot of red flags with my family and mistreatment. I got to a really low point where I was thinking of moving to a women's shelter or just living out of my car. I reached out to a friend and they let me move in. I ended up lying to my family and told them that I was living in Bear Lake on my friend's property, and that there wasn't cell service and that I could only communicate through email. This lasted for about 2 years that I wasn't in communication with them. At this time, I felt so safe, so seen and heard, believed and loved by my friends. And the memories began coming back in stages. The first memory I had, which was working on why I was afraid of the dark, it led into me seeing me being molested by my dad. And I was at the age of 6 years old. I got better and better at processing memories, and things began snowballing from there. I had another memory that I worked through of being trafficked by my dad and his business partner in tiny town Morrison, Colorado. Until this memory, I didn't even know my dad had lived there for a short period and got confirmation from my mom. I had another memory of being trafficked by my aunt to men I didn't know around the age of 10 in San Francisco. I had another memory of being abused by my uncle with me and other kids where I was taken out of my bed. This was the first stage of memories. It was incest, child sexual abuse, and trafficking. I have other memories, but you get the idea. This next memory was my first satanic ritual abuse. It was so shocking, extremely hard to work through because I had no recollection of this even taking place and that this was even a thing being done to people. Reliving this and knowing people do this, it's the senses all come back. You can feel it. You can see things. You're just totally reliving it. To even trust that this is real was the biggest battle. For years, I've questioned myself. So I was 15 years old and was invited to go to San Francisco with my dad, my uncle, and my aunt, and my siblings. And my mom wasn't there. And it was very abnormal to go on a trip with my uncle. But in the memory, my uncle and my dad had gotten drunk, and my aunt was the DD, and I was drugged and was taken to the San Francisco, California Grand Lodge. And there I was put on an altar naked on top of a boy.
That's the Masonic Lodge.
Mm-hmm. And they used daggers, like small swords. They injected them into us, and we were playing the roles of Adam and Eve. The men were all dressed in, the dark hooded robes. And I knew that my dad was there and my uncle. And it was some sort of an initiation. My dad went first, and he raped me. And then all the other men did as well. what was so interesting about that is consciously I remember, you know, the biggest point of why we went to San Francisco and, you know, the great things about it was, you know, we went on a bike ride across the Golden Gate Bridge, and I just remember being in so much pain. You know, I grew up riding bikes. It wasn't even a big thing. I never talked about it or anything, but
This bike ride was after
the day
ceremony.
after.
That makes sense. Okay.
Waking up to this was just so devastating. These people were my heroes in life. You know, I idolized them. I looked up to them. I aspired to be like them. I battled for a long time thinking, how could these people be involved in such dark deeds? And like, what is this? So after this memory, I would wake up in the middle of the night screaming. The dark forces were so strong and so heightened at this point. Definitely a lot of attacks going on. So after waking up to this memory, you know, looking for answers and confirmation, and also looking back at my timeline, it was so interesting because when my aunt took me to San Francisco, when I talked about being trafficked to other men, one of the best memories that I have on that trip was we went to the Grace Cathedral and walked around the labyrinth. That was like the coolest thing. Well, what's interesting is I found out that it's actually across the street from the California Grand Lodge in San Francisco. And this is actually where my dad, I went on a trip with my dad and some family members to San Francisco. And we went to the same cathedral to walk around the labyrinth. And my dad pointed out, oh, look, there's the California, you know, the Freemason Lodge. And I just was like, oh my gosh, we need to go see it. So we walk across the street and, you know, I'm just like googly eyeing this place. How crazy is that like subconsciously I had been there. And my dad was just like, oh, isn't this so cool? And then come to find out, I have memories of being there. It's just wild.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you.
So this next memory was my trauma-based mind control MK Ultra type abuse. I say it that way because it's just like, how can we make up this stuff? This is just so insane. So my memory was, it was my grandpa's 80th birthday party. We had a huge family get together at my uncle's place that used to be behind the Capitol building in Salt Lake City. After this birthday party, you know, I ended up getting drugged again. And everybody goes over to this old hospital that's up in the avenues.
Yeah, one here on screen, the Salt Lake City Veterans Hospital.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know that place at all?
I do not, but I do now.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So the weird thing about this hospital is when my brother and I would, when my family would visit from Denver to Salt Lake, so my aunt lived in the avenues, and when he was of age to drive, we would go and drive and park at this old abandoned hospital. Well, come to find out, I have so many memories at this hospital.
That's where they were doing a bunch of the abuse.
Yeah.
Rituals.
Yeah. And at this time, it was abandoned.
There was rituals happening there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, oh my gosh, this one was so hard to get through because, again, it was so horrific. I couldn't even have come up with this. But so what happened was I was in a hospital chair and, I had a thing around my head and I was all connected with all of these wires. And in front of me was this, huge screen. It was like this big. And there were just images shown. And what was interesting was, the really gory, horrific images, I would feel euphoria. Almost like being on ecstasy or something. And then, the other images would show like butterflies or rainbows. And I would just feel gross and sick almost. This lasted for a while. And then all of a sudden, a man appears dressed as Satan and grabs a boy and starts raping him in front of me. There's someone that's holding my eyelids open that I had to watch this. The next thing that happened was there was a reenactment of Peter Pan. And mind you, there's men and women watching this. I think I was more in disbelief that there were women watching. And I played the role as Tinkerbell. And there was a ritual around one of the Lost Boys. The one that was dressed up like the bear, the Lost Boy. And again, my eyelids were held open, and I had to watch this little boy get raped and just cut up into little pieces. I don't know how I got this information, but what came to me was he was a terminally ill boy to use as the sacrifice. I watched them burn the body and dispose of it. And, there's symbology in everything. I've learned even the story of Peter Pan. Anyway, but so in 2023, I had a desire to go back to the Mormon church. At this time, my spirituality kind of circled back with the beliefs of the church and, people I was affiliated with, these great members of the church, amazing people. I'm like, am I missing something? And so at this time, you know, I was doing a lot of research. I went to the Manti open house, their temple there. And at this time, I had a huge craving to, I should say desire, to get rebaptized. It was almost like coming up with all of these memories. I just wanted to cleanse my soul, you know? I was asking priesthood holders if they were able to, like, go to some lake and just give me some priesthood prayer, and but I was getting rejected and was told, you know, I'm still I'm still a member of the church. I haven't removed my name. I haven't been excommunicated, so, you know, there's no reason to do that. You just need to do X, Y, and Z, and you'll be good. Well, this was the time when I reached out to Ryan and we started talking. And I think that with talking to Ryan, there were a lot of things that were like triggering within me still that I knew that I needed to look at. And so I went in to a session and I was like, what is up with this whole baptism thing? I just have learned that when something comes to me and is so strong, I just want to look at it. And that's when I came up with the memory of Ryan's dad. I was in the car with him, and again, I had been drugged, and we had pulled up to, it was a LDS church. It wasn't our home ward building, but it was very familiar. I knew it was
This was a memory, right?
yeah, an LDS chapel. Probably a stake center is what I'm thinking, but and so I'm not able to move. My eyes are closed. And when we get in, we're met up with other men, that familiar voices. These are men I grew up with that were in our ward. I can hear, like, it's an echo where I knew we were in the kitchen. And I'm coming, you know, it's in and out of like a dissociated part, so up on the ceiling and then back into my body. And I'm watching them take something. I wasn't sure what it was. And then we're in a room, a dark room, and they're all in these.
What do you mean take something?
Okay, so I want to say it, because I'm not sure, but what I was thinking was some type of drug. They all put something on their tongues and...
So they ate something.
Yeah, or ate something. Almost like toasting, like, here we go. And so we're in a room, and they're doing this really weird chanting. It's like a different language. And I'm naked at this time, and they just dunk me. And I'm 8 years old at this time. And they dunk me in blood. And a familiar lady that I knew in the ward, takes me to the bathroom and she wipes me off. She's very gentle and nice. And then I am in, what's the gym called there at the...
Gymnasium or foyer?
Oh, yeah, the cultural hall. I'm in the middle of the floor. And I see all of a sudden now I'm like up on the ceiling and I'm seeing Ryan and Marcus, who he talked about, other boys that were, you know, in that age group, with their dads, and there's other ones that I didn't know. And the boys are naked at this time. And the men, I mean, they're running around me in a circle, just acting animalistic. The sense that I could feel at this time, it was almost like I had a cocktail of drugs, because at this time it was, you know, as if I was on acid or something. It was so profound, and the shaking, the echoing of the cultural hall, you know, it was for a reason, I'm sure. But then all of a sudden it stops, and the men take the boys off to the side, and they all started raping the boys. And the boys are then taken out of the cultural hall, and the men are doing sexual acts with each other, and they ended up ejaculating on me. And then they ended up closing off the ceremony, which looked like some prayer or something to end the ritual. I ended up going out. It was almost like women weren't allowed to be in the cultural hall. They had their place and position, and the woman then cleaned me up. And what was interesting at this time, she was so mean. She was saying the most awful things, like, "How dare you? I can't believe you're doing this. You're making me do this. This is disgusting. You're worthless," and just rough. So what was interesting is I remember going home with Ryan and his dad. This is, the memory that it took me. And I ended up waking up at his house with his, older sister. And everyone's confused, and, my hair is dyed, red. That was important to know, to remember in this memory. My mom picked me up, and she was furious that my hair wasn't done. I have naturally curly hair, and to, have it blown out takes a lot of effort. So my mom was just upset that my hair, you colored your hair. Why is it curly? What did you do? So again, it's this shame taking, just what did I do? Is it my fault? I can't talk about, I just woke up at Ryan's house. I don't even know why I'm here. You can't talk about those things. So at this time, I was talking to Ryan, and I knew that it was so important to not plant any seeds. So badly I wanted to be like, Ryan, oh my gosh, blah, 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 blah. But I kept it all in. I knew that he was working through really important work with his therapist. And again, knowing that you can't have this really hard information. I didn't want to be the one to be blamed at all. If Ryan was like, oh my gosh, Lindsay, what are you doing? What are you telling me? There's no way this is true. I knew he had to come up with this on his own. And so I just, constantly guided him and let him know, it's okay, I believe you.
So basically, like, when we started talking, it wasn't, oh, I remember this giant ritual abuse thing that happened. For me, it was like, yeah, I don't talk to my family anymore. This is why, because of, do you remember Marcus? Do you remember, their family? It was really slow, like piece by piece by piece.
Oh, yeah.
And as I'm kind of piecemealing this to see if I can even trust Lindsay, I'm still having more new flashbacks come of the ritual abuse, right? And so as I start sharing more of my story, I start remembering more of what's happened. And much like I triggered Lindsay, she's now triggering me, and my brain is like, hey, there's like something big that's happened here. So I start working with my own therapist in processing these memories as well. And then I have a flashback that is that same memory, but it's different. So if you will, I remember being taken down a hallway into a room where I meet my dad. And I feel this like sense of relief that he's there, because I don't know what's going on. I feel afraid, and it's like, okay, I'm safe. He's there. We're going to be okay. There's other boys there. I don't remember who. Like my memory, I'm not seeing those boys. I just know that they're there. And I know that their dads are in that room that I'm taken to. And it's like a small room, right? It's not like a big room. It's just like this small room, whatever. I remember being given something to eat. I don't know what it was. Just something that we, like a piece of candy or something. And then we are filed out and kind of taken into a bigger room. And in this bigger room, I start to dissociate. I'm like kind of bouncing between being conscious in my body and then seeing everything from this dissociated position. Okay. And if you will, like in your mind's eye, create a rectangle, and we enter in from the bottom corner. That's where the door was that we came in through, and line that wall. And as we're lining that wall, my dad tells me that we're going to play a game, and that we're all going to get undressed, and we're going to act like wild animals. We're just going to be crazy, and that I should do that I should be loud, I should jump, I should crawl, I should scream, I should just be crazy. In the center of the room, Lindsay was there. I don't know how to make sense of that. That's just what I saw. My dad tells me that we're all going to go. I say we all, meaning the boys. The men stayed around the perimeter. And he told me to go around with the boys in this circle, kind of around Lindsay in the center of the room. And then at that point, I'm pretty much fully dissociated, and I'm seeing this from way up top back here. And we're just wild. I can't describe it other than that. It's just Lords of the Fly, or kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Lord of the Flies kind of a thing.
Great way of saying it. Yeah.
Thanks, yeah.
Yeah.
And from that dissociated position, I see my dad approach, and he kind of peels me off, takes me opposite of my dissociated position, so kind of the top wall, and holds me to the floor face down, hands on my back, and rapes me. That's all I remember. That's it. Period. Wow. I don't remember anything else. I don't remember what Lindsay said about how they finished. I don't remember chanting. I don't remember them doing anything. That's it. My dad took me, and I was gone.
Wow.
when this memory started coming back, I really, Jason, I thought I was crazy. I, piece by piece, shared what I was remembering as I felt like I could trust Lindsay, because how do you share this with anybody? Yeah. Like, I was afraid to even tell my therapist this, let alone anybody outside of therapy. Like, I was terrified. It drove me to start to research ritual abuse, to find, like, is this am I really crazy? Like, is this actually a thing, or am I just like straight up kookadooks? Is like, what's going on? And so, you know, gosh, Google's amazing, right? It did not take long. It did not take much effort, actually. Satanic ritual abuse, Utah. That's what I Googled. It exploded in my face. One of the first things that I found was the Glenn Pace memo. You did a podcast about that a while back that was pretty informative. I found that on my own, gosh, it was probably 6 months ago.
Yeah, it was the first one. That back, year and a half or so ago.
Yeah, and anyway, when I found it, I had no idea. I didn't know what it was. I was like, okay, who's Glenn Pace? He's the presiding bishop back in the 90s or something, early 90s for the church, and he was assigned by the Strengthening Members Committee to look into ritual abuse allegations that were coming out by not just one person, but a multitude of people back in the early 90s. And so the Strengthening what's it called?
Strengthening Members Committee.
It's a tongue twister. They got to come up with a different name. Strengthening Members Committee.
Doesn't officially exist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so maybe it's good that it's hard to say. Keeps it more secret. Anyway, they tasked him with looking into this. And so that's what the Glenn Pace memo is. It's his report. It's his findings on these ritual abuse allegations. And he interviewed, what was it, 60, 80 individuals? 60 individuals who had uncollaborated stories that were all saying similar things to what Lindsay and I have said today. Blew my mind.
Oh, I'm so grateful you found that.
Yeah.
That just confirmed everything to me. It was the first time I have heard someone actually explain it in the way.
It's like he was in my head.
Oh, same.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was written or done in the early 90s, like 1992, 93, which is exactly when this was happening to you and I.
Yeah.
So it just exploded my whole understanding of this. And now all of a sudden I knew, hey, I'm not crazy. This is real. This is absolutely real. Weird, not a tangent, but another like weird coincidence. So I run a real estate brokerage, and in trying to get my brokerage going and being more successful, I look at what other brokers are doing too, and I inadvertently came across Brett.
Yeah. Brett.
What's his last name? Brett.
Shout out to Brett Henry.
Henry. There you go. Brett Henry. And I came across a social media post of his. He's
been awesome.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I since have met him. And anyway, he did this post that I found or came across with the house in Utah County that had all of these weird altars and you know, has now these sexual or ritualistic abuse allegations against it. And I found his post about that, gosh, maybe a month after the Glenn Pace memo. And so that to me was just like another like undeniable confirmation that this stuff was real, except that it was showing that, okay, this wasn't just happening way back then. This is still going on, you know? And that led me to you, actually. Brett did. I went and he does this thing on social media. He invites people to go do an ice bath with him on Sunday mornings. So I went and I did it. I know. It was fun. It was great, actually. I'm still here. It's fine. But I told him, I kind of opened up to him. I said, hey, this is who I am. I heard about your post. Like, this is crazy. I've never heard anybody say anything like this. And you're just confirming to me that what's in my head is real. And he's like, oh, dude, you got no idea. You got to go talk to We Are the People. I said, We Are the who? He's like, yeah, go talk to Jay. Here's his name. Go talk to Jason. Okay. So I found out that like the following week, you guys were hosting this rally at the Capitol to raise awareness around the reduction
Stuart
of
Adams.
there you go,
Yeah.
Stuart Adams case, and the reduction of the consent age in Utah. And so I decided to go to that rally. It was pretty uncharacteristic of me. I've pretty much kept my own about all of this, right? So I was like, okay, I'm going to be brave, and I'm going to go do this thing. I'm going to go to this rally. Went to the rally. I was blown away. A, that there were other people there, for one, and B, that the two speakers, well, you had more than two speakers, but two of the speakers that you had there were also ritual abuse survivors, and that they were brave enough, both of these women were brave enough to, from the Capitol steps, speak to their experiences in detail and open up about ritualistic abuse that was happening inside of the LDS church today, currently. Blew my mind. And a couple of things happened then. One, I felt more empowered, okay? And two, I recognized that there was a voice missing, a pretty big voice, because everybody that we had just heard from was a female survivor. And I know that you've had a couple other male survivors on, so I'm not completely alone, but we're definitely in a minority.
Yeah.
And so I felt very compelled to do something about that and to raise my voice for myself and for also all other male survivors. In this research, I also thought, okay, I'm not talking to my family anymore. I haven't talked to them for years, so I'm not going to go to my parents and be like, hey, do you guys remember the Satanic Panic from the 1980s and 90s? Like, that's not going to happen. But I did go to my ex-mother-in-law, and she and I are very close still, and she has been very supportive of me. And I said, hey, I want to talk to you about this thing. It's a little weird. You ever heard of the Satanic Panic of the 1990s and 80s? And I full-on expected her to be like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you into right now? Right? Like, come on. No. Immediately she opened up. Oh, yeah, I know. Yes. Oh, yeah. That was a big thing. It was all over the place. We were living in the avenues at the time, and there were these allegations or these accusations of satanic covens. This is what she told me, that there were these satanic covens operating within her stake, okay, all through the avenues in the late 1980s and early 1990s. And she said President Nelson, the late President Nelson, was her stake president at the time that all of this was happening, that all these allegations were going on. Jason, how is this the first time that I'm hearing about all of this? How is this the first time anybody's hearing about? Why was there a satanic panic in the 1990s that nobody really knows about now?
Well, that's what happens when when a few people control the media. When you have politicians and justice system that is run by this stuff, and when they decided, see, here's the problem for them. You two come and you talk, and guess what? People out there, start to wake up, amnesia, and people start feeling safe. And it as you talked about that tidal wave, that tsunami. Mm-hmm. This is why this is so important, and this is why we are committing to have your voices out, because this is happening. It is happening in states. It is happening across this country. It is happening. It is saturated in the state, and kids
across
are being
the nation.
abused.
Yeah.
But as you share your experiences, all of a sudden, one, people start to get triggered and start to have their own memories, and two, people who have start to feel bold and come and talk. And the more people talk, the more this is what destroys them. Yeah. And this is what was destroying them back in the 80s and 90s, which is why they had to shut it down and call it all a lie, control the narrative, control the media, which, if you know who controls the media here, the Deseret Management.
It's a lot easier to control the media in the 80s and 90s than it is now.
This, and you guys, our audience. And that is why this is such an important time to finally bring this demon and this dragon down.
I'm glad you say that, actually, because I do feel very much like now is the time. When I was 18, before I left on my mission, my mom caught me looking at porn. It's not what this is about. That was fine.
Don't cry.
But again, you got to remember my religious scrupulosity. So what that meant was catastrophic to me, and she had found me. So again, I thought my life was over. It didn't go over well. There's a lot of yelling, a lot of screaming. That's not really the point. Basically it came down to I was told I was going to burn in hell because I'd been looking at porn. Yeah. Crushed me, sent me suicidal that minute, because if looking at porn was going to cause me to burn in hell, I stood no chance. Yeah. She didn't know what she was saying. She didn't even comprehend a lick, or I mean, maybe she did. I don't know, but I'd been through way worse. So I wrote a suicide note. I snuck out, went to the garage, grabbed my dad's pistol, loaded it, threw it in my Jeep. And I drove up to Logan. There's an old Jeep road up there that I love. Ephraim's Grave. It's about a bear that was killed. This whole thing. It's kind of fun. But drove up there because it was remote and I could be alone. And I sat with this pistol in my lap for a good part of the night. And I had two objectives. I was going to ask God why this had happened to me. Or, if I didn't get an answer, objective number 2, I was going to take my life and I was going to go find out why. I'm still here. And the answer that I got is not what I wanted. I wanted closure. I wanted an explanation. Ryan. These things happened to you for a reason. And this is why you're here. What am I supposed to do with that? Things happen for a reason. That's why I'm here. I felt a little cheated. Again, I wanted an explanation. But I got an answer. So I put the gun down. I actually got a speeding ticket on my way home. Loaded pistol still on the back seat. I don't know how the cop didn't see it. Gave me a warning. I was a mess. I was just bawling. He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm going home to my mom." And I was just bawling. Gave me a warning. I went home to my parents and didn't tell them anything. They said, "Where did you go?" And I told them I went on a drive to think about things. And they were just grateful that they didn't have to explain anything to my siblings. Nothing else was said about it. A few months later, I was on my mission. But I had my answer, and I feel strongly now that this is the reason that I went through that abuse. It was so that I could go through it, I could heal from it, and I could show other survivors like me that healing is possible, that CPTSD, that PTSD, that it is not a life sentence. There are so many damaging stigmas against survivors, especially male survivors. So I'm here. I went through what I went through, and I'm sitting here now to fight those stigmas, to hopefully fight them together with all of us. And not just the stigmas, but also this ritual abuse and the evil that is happening all around us. we need to wake up. People need to be aware that this is happening today. And I'm here to shine a big old spotlight on all of it. So thank you again, Jason, for having us on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jason.
Do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to leave, Lindsay, with our audience?
So mine are very similar as Ryan. In my healing journey, I have learned that before I even came down and had a body, I had this all planned out. I picked my family. I picked these circumstances to go through, to learn in all opposition, you know? The healing that it takes to go through. It's just so imperative. And, you know, it's all about going within and really coming to an understanding that we are all daughters and sons of God. Yeah, that's all.
Oh, you're beautiful.
Thank you.
And Ryan, thank you. I you know, it's humbling for me to sit here with you guys and with so many of, you know, our survivors that that come on here, and but it's so inspiring, you know, because you guys have been through the most incredible things, and I just hope our, you know, those of you on the other side who are watching this, I hope your hearts be touched, and I hope you will know that you are here for a reason. And I know that many of you have been through things that are so horrific that most of us will never be able to wrap our head around. But I believe in a God who heals. I believe in a God who loves unconditionally. I believe in a God who sees and knows everything we have been through and has felt our tears and has seen us, you know, weep and go through horrific things and comforted us. I believe it is, you know, you who have been through those and tasted the depths of hell, who on the other side of that God has given great power to come out and lead his army against this. And I do come from a religious background, and I believe we are in biblical times. And I believe, you know, I'm a very political individual as well. And, you know, I appreciate your comments, because honestly, the political stuff it's garbage. It's nothing compared. This is the heart of the battle. It's not left and right. In fact, most of the politicians are all corrupt on both sides. And in Utah, it's predominantly Republican. And I will tell you, the Republican Party in Utah is completely corrupted. But my faith is in you. It's in the people. It's in individuals. It is in just regular old people who have been through hell in their life and have been through difficult things and is with the help of God battled through. And I will tell you this, you know, I'm far from perfect. I am far from perfect. My wife and I are far from perfect, but God's not looking for perfect people. You see the perfect people standing at the pulpits who appear perfect and doing the most horrific things that we can even imagine. God's just looking for people who care and are willing to stand and fight. Good people like these two people, good people like you. And I would just encourage you, you know, if you feel that something inside you that you have a role to play, I can promise you do. Because God needs people to stand and fight and expose this enemy. And this, I don't know what's more important than this. You know, people who are going through being, you know, just this stuff is happening in our backyards. The media is not going to fix it. Politicians are not going to fix it. Our church leaders are not going to fix it. It is going to be you. And so I just encourage you, if you feel that call within you, you know, you don't need to come post on the comment, what can I do? Please don't. You don't need me. You don't need us to give you direction. Go to God, because he sent you just like he sent these brave warriors for a time and purpose such as this. And I promise you, if you fast, if you pray, if you spend time on your knees, he will guide you into whatever your calling is, whatever you were anointed to do. And so, you know, I love you guys. I really do. I see you guys. We run into you guys. We see you in the comments. We see you in the stores. And I will tell you, we love you. We appreciate you. Obviously, all of you survivors, but especially you, those of you who have not been through this, who just have a heart that loves and cares and just weeps for justice and is willing to stand and fight for those who have been through these things. And I just want to close. Again, what's your website where people can go and support you and
Thank you.
get this?
It's turningfromthewoods.com.
From the woods.
Yeah, turning from the woods as in like wood, W-O-O-D-S.
I love it.
Thank you.
I'm going to get something. I'm very touched by your story and by this. I think it is beautiful. And I love the philosophy. Beautiful, and the flaws is what makes it beautiful. And that's how God sees us. Anything you want people to know about you? Anything where they can find you or follow you, or you just want to lay low?
I'm old school. Yeah.
All right. And Lindsay, when you are ready, we would love to have you come share your story. And I know people would love to know more about you.
Thanks.
So you have a very beautiful spirit about it. So
thank you so much. Thank you for all you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you guys. So God bless everybody.
Most filters only strip out contaminants, and they do it poorly. Sentry removes toxins at a deeper level and adds back minerals. 75% of customers feel the difference in just 2 weeks. Install your Sentry Wellness System in just 30 minutes and enjoy water that fuels your life. Learn more at SentryH2O.com.